Now, idea number 2 is about getting local people to celebrate local culture and take pride in the community. And this idea came out of the fact that whenever we talked to the community, people were saying, oh my goodness, we have a great community, and some people just don't know about it. And so there seemed to be this opportunity that people wanted to share the stories and celebrate the great people that were in that community. So the way that we decided to do this was basically we thought, wow, what we're talking about is the amazing stories of individuals and how their lives have impacted the lives of others. And so perhaps we want to tell these stories, but we want to tell them in a really short and quick way. And so the basic idea is to come up with a really short poster with maybe 1 or 2 sentences and a photo of that person, and get it into the shopping trolleys at the local supermarket, right? Just as a way of kind of going, you know what, we've got some great people doing some great stuff here. So how do we test this? You know, this idea of, you would want to do it over the period of a year, all of this kind of thing. And so in discussion, what we would go is, okay, how can we test this tomorrow? Now, the way that we can test it tomorrow is we think about, okay, we've got to break up the task. So the first thing we think about is, okay, we need permission from the supermarket to give this a go. Luckily, you will probably find in a small town that one of the members of your group knows the owner of the supermarket, so that shouldn't be a problem. We've also got to get the stories. So the stories are really important, drafting up a bit of a list as to who you might want to have involved in those stories, but also thinking about how you're going to gather that, how you're going to record them, who's going to do it. We're going to turn this around really quickly. And then finally, evaluation. How do we know whether it was successful? So you might find, remembering back to your assets, who do you know that wants to take photos, who's interested in recording stories? And I imagine that if you were to do something like this, that you would quickly find someone who was willing to be taken out to somebody's house, I guess, or to visit and do an interview with someone about the impact that they've had on the world. And that you'd get a good photo. There's always budding photographers that you can get from around town. Now, often you'll find, so for a project like this, you need to get it printed. Now, you may have a budget, but you might also be able to get someone to pay for it. And remember, this is a test. So they don't have to be perfect. It might be the case that you run it through the photocopier at work and stick 4 sheets of paper together and then glue it to some cardboard. It's just a test. We want to see whether the idea works. So you would identify a few people, get those stories together, and then get them onto your boards ready to go. You'd set up the relationship with the supermarket to make sure that they were happy for you to do it, and then also you start thinking about evaluation. Now, if I was evaluating this, obviously I would have a clear set of goals. I wouldn't jump into this without having a clear set of goals, but I'd want to know that people actually paid attention to it. Okay, are people looking at this? And then I want to know, were they learning something new? Were they finding out about something? Were they interested? Now, there's a few ways that you could do this, and I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head. One of the ways that you could do this, obviously, is a quick survey. Now, surveys will often work better if you have someone standing there and saying, hey, can you answer a couple of questions? And if you can entice them, maybe offer to pack their groceries into the car or give them lollies or something like that. However you can to get some feedback. Now, the other thing you can do is observe. So for instance, if I was doing this project, one of the things I'd want to know is, are people paying attention to their own trolley, but also are they looking at someone else's trolley? Are they kind of having a sneak peek? And you could do this by having people positioned in the shops. So you can see here, you'd never do this in an ongoing fashion, but as a short-term project, this could actually be a really easy way to work out whether it was happening. Now, I imagine if you did this and you had enough people standing around watching, that you would find that people would go, oh, yeah, I know that guy, I wonder what he did. Okay, this is a rural town, perhaps, or a small town, and so you actually get some of that feedback. Now, testing, you make this happen on a particular day. You say to the shop owner, don't worry, we'll take all of the things down at the end of the day, and you basically run it through for a period of time with a clear set of ideas about exactly how you're going to evaluate whether this is successful or not. Now, I think if I got to the end of a day of doing this and the participants in my group had lots of conversations with members of the community saying, oh my goodness, I love this, or even just saying, hey Bob, I know that guy, I didn't realize that he did that, or I knew that he did that, or even making suggestions. So you're looking for buy-in and engagement from the community. Okay, so if I was getting lots of feedback like that and people were saying, oh, I love these posters, then I would start seriously thinking about whether we could do it in an ongoing fashion. Now, the other thing that I'd be thinking is, does the supermarket want to continue doing this kind of work? Do the supermarket want to actually have these things in there? Now that's going to be fairly clear at the end of the day. If the staff get excited when you finally get out of their way, then maybe not. But if they say, hey, can we leave them up for another week? Then you're going to get an indication that, hey, perhaps this is actually something that could work. So these approaches, your approach is going to be very different to what I'm talking about here, but you're trying to think of the quickest and cheapest way to get some feedback on your idea. Now, it might be that you trial it in a really simple way. It might also be that you just put up a poster or, you want to do exercise in the park, you take gym equipment down there and see what people say. It needs to be something simple and easy to implement, okay? The other advantage of doing this is you're actually gathering a group of people around a project that's very short. If you've ever been asked to volunteer on a committee, you'll find that you go, I don't know that I want to be committed for that long. But if someone says, hey, can you give me a hand for a day or an hour? You're far more likely to say yes. So what you're starting to build is momentum in your volunteers about giving this project a go. And then when they get positive feedback about this process, then what's actually happening is they're gearing up to do it for real because the community have told them that it made an impact. Okay, and these things will really help you to build momentum. To say nothing of the fact that it's fun to do a project that can be a little bit wild or crazy, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work because you're going to learn something from it anyway. So go, get your creative juices going, get out there, give your project a go, and then work out whether you think you can make it work as a result of that. Enjoy. Catch you later.